everybody. Amri here. Hope you're doing well. Questions come in. How can your organization monitor the progress of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? Most of the time when we're talking about this, we're talking about representation. Caveat before I jump into talking about representation is that at Inclusion Wins, when we create an inclusion system, we're creating the same outcomes all the time. People thriving, generative organizational cultures. I'll talk more about that over time. And of course, you can read about it in my book, Reconstructing Inclusion. But the question that comes to me, or the thing that occurs to me, is that when we're talking about the outcomes of representation, we're talking about lagging indicators. There had to be a lot of things that went into that before somebody became, for example, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a FTSE 100 company. And as a person of color or any other person, there's a lot that comes through that that leads to this outcome. So I know there are a lot of companies dedicated to making inclusion normative, those that are working towards equity and closing gaps and creating more positive outcomes for those who have had less access. So given this, rather than just focusing on that lagging outcome, let's take an inventory of the things that lead up to it. So who's involved in high-level coaching? How is mentoring creating the conditions for people to create robust networks or a constellation of mentors, as Dr. Audrey Morell has shared with me in the past? How do these networks help them identify opportunities and develop their capacity to take on more complex roles, to be visible, to get engaged in conversations that they might not have access to? That's where I see a lot of inequity. How can we create capabilities and opportunities to bridge those gaps? So when you're thinking about diversity via representation goals, think about these things, and are you collecting these so-called leading indicators? Things like who's being nominated to lead more significant projects? Do international assignments available across the organization have diverse representation? How connected are high performers from historically marginalized backgrounds? Those are three questions. And then where are there potential enablers or barriers to that list? There are some people who are doing well that are from so-called historically marginalized backgrounds. What got them there? Do we even have that data? We spend a lot of time on deficit. We haven't necessarily spent a lot of time on what's working for those who might, because of the way they look, have been considered historically marginalized. What are they getting? When did they get it? Did they get it from this organization, or did they get it even further upstream before they entered into the doors of a particular organization? So at some point, I hope we can celebrate people's ability to choose because they've had these opportunities, because they've had these exposures. And so more than celebrating outcomes, I hope at some point we're able to commemorate the notion of talent scarcity being gone, that we're not talking about we can't find them, and quote unquote. So I hope you can hold that possibility for me, that we transform the notion of talent scarcity and talk about the notion of abundance amongst those who have done well, and really anchor on those things that have gotten them there. So I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to order my book, Reconstructing Inclusion, Making DEI Accessible, Actionable, and Sustainable. You can find it on my LinkedIn page, and of course at inclusionwins.com. Thanks for listening again, and make it a great day.